Well, as we've just heard, the Murray-Darling Basin Authority has released its draft plan to save the river system. It's proposing water use to be cut by 2,750 gigalitres a year. For the federal opposition's reaction to the plan, we're joined now by their spokesman on water, Senator Barnaby Joyce, who's in Canberra. Senator Joyce, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure, Francis.
Before this plan was released, you were concerned that it would create more uncertainty and more problems for farmers. Have your concerns been realised now that the draft plan has been released?
No, they haven't, Francis. We still need three questions to be answered. Where precisely is the water coming from? Is it coming from Deniliquin? Is it coming from Shepparton? Exactly where is it coming from? Dirranbandi in my area. The next question is, how is the water turning up? Is it going to turn up via infrastructure or buybacks? Buybacks just shuts down the economy. Infrastructure obviously is a smarter way, and they've only expended about 250 million of the 5.8 billion that they had to actually deal with infrastructure. And why? Exactly what is the environmental asset, both either in-stream or downstream, that they're intending to water, and how do they intend to do it? Now, the environmental water holders become like another farmer watering certain assets, but they're very loose on the detail about how they're actually going to do this. And when they talk about phasing it in, that's like phasing in amputation for many towns. If you take away the substance of their economic base, the town will fold.
As you say, they have left themselves a lot of wriggle room when it comes to where the cuts are going to be coming from and how they're achieved, whether through buybacks or infrastructure. Some would argue that's a good thing because it means that the input can be made while the plan is phased in. Do you see some merit to that?
Well, let's put the shoe on the other foot, Francis. Let's pretend that you're about to buy a motel or you're about to buy a house in one of these towns. What are you going to do? Are you going to feel certainty? Are you going to go in there and buy that house? I'm more concerned in many instances about the people who live in the towns, the tyre shop owner, the chemist, the person who's bought a house and has a mortgage. We have to make sure that we don't leave them high and dry, and this idea of uncertainty just puts a real shudder through the market, because there are 2.1 million people who live in the basin, and that basin is also vastly responsible for the production of food that keeps your cost of living down. Now, if we get this wrong, we create uncertainty for them, and we create uncertainty for you, because you pick up the tab in your shopping trolley.
But Senator Joyce, the criticism of the guide to the draft plan, which saw those images that we saw last year of the burning of the plan, the criticism of that was that it lacked consultation and that people weren't informed before this whole idea was dumped on them. Doesn't this plan address those concerns in inviting people in these communities to have their input?
Well, we have the 20-week consultation period in front of us. It's only officially been released today, yet it seems to have been secretly leaked to everything, the Upper Tumut Gazette and the down below the creek Times. But now we have the official release. We have the 20-week consultation period, and we'll be making sure, hoping that the minister appears at these meetings so that he can really talk to the people for whom he is responsible. Now, that is going to be the mark of their confidence in their own plan. If they run away, if they try to have meetings in secret, if they don't really want to face up and fess up to the people that they're affecting, then it shows that it's really just a political exercise from Canberra, not a heart and soul ownership of the issue.
But Senator Joyce, not only, the Minister mentioned earlier, there is no consensus on a Murray-Darling plan, and there never will be. Not only will it pit irrigators against environmentalists, but it'll also perhaps potentially pit farmers against farmers with concerns about the different allocations across the length of the Murray-Darling. There is also a point that 85% of the cuts will have to come from the southern half of the basin, and your part of the world has got off a bit lighter than expected. Do you agree with that?
No, I don't agree with any of that. First of all, the consensus idea is there'll be no consensus. That's a load of rubbish. There was. People did believe they had to put water back into the river. In fact, that's why we put the plan together.
But there's never a consensus about the size.
Well, no, it's because when you go to the details and trying to find the facts, you can't find it. You pick up their plan now, and if you take out all the glossy pictures, which makes up most of the megabits of material in it, go and actually find for instance, the Narran Lakes and exactly how they get the water to it and how much water they're getting to it, or the Colgoa floodplain, exactly how they get the water to it. The detail is not there. There's sort of marvellous statements and glossy pictures, but a lack of detail. Now, there is consensus when you get the figures right and when you can show the diligence behind it. But if you lack diligence and then say, oh, we just can't find consensus, then that is an opt-out. if you provide the diligence, provide the information, can stand behind the information and understand the information, then you will get consensus, Mr. Burke. But if you just stay back and say, oh, well, I can abscond from all the sort of the diligence of this process because we'll never find consensus. I mean, that's like the doctor at the operating room saying, look, we're just going to have to chop off something because we just can't find consensus about exactly what's wrong with you. So we'll hack an arm and a leg off and we'll just got to do something. So that's what we'll do.
But just that point about where the reductions come from, do you think that will be the source of some conflict, that 85% of the cuts are expected to come from the southern half of the basin as opposed to the rest coming from the northern half where you are?
Well, we are having one of the biggest cuts is in my area, but let's not pitch one area against the other. Let's talk about the environmental assets in stream that you need to water, and let's talk about the diligence behind it. So straight away we fall into the Labor Party trap where it's just about the on globo number. We want to get beyond the on globo number and just say, look, show me the detail of exactly what you're going to water and how you're going to water it and where that water's coming from and the manner of which you'll be getting that water. And then we can truly talk about the socio-economic effects on the town, which is another thing which the Labor Party have just given these, glossy statements with wonderful pictures and then some sort of cryptic, oh, well, there's going to be pain. When anybody talks to you like that, you know they're just not across their brief and they're just jamming it on you and trying to escape the homework that they should have done.
And let's hope that some of that detail comes out today and in the coming weeks during that consultation period. Senator Joyce, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.